my mom called me saying, "Oh, have you heard about the virus in Wuhan? It seems like to be a dangerous virus." I was like, "Ah, do not worry, it's in China. It won't affect our lives." Hello everyone, my name is Elisa. Welcome to my channel. I am an Italian expat living abroad. I've been living here for the past 2 years, some months now. In today's videos, I wanted to share with you what my experience has been living in a foreign country during the coronavirus pandemic. Just share my experience of how I've been through each different phases of the pandemic since it started. In the first phase of the pandemic, I felt like I was a fortune teller, but without my crystal ball. Because I'm from Italy, I knew that something was gonna happen in the entire world, kind of. I think the north of Italy was the first place that was hit very bad by the coronavirus pandemic. We had a lot of news coming from Italy, obviously from family, friends, and newspaper as well. I was following very close on the things that were happening there. Whilst in the UK, people were still convinced that the coronavirus was something very far from us, and that was just a flu. And I know we all thought that, but in that specific time, that it was around March 2020, for me it was very, very hard because I had to deal from one side with something very bad that was happening in Italy, especially in the north, which is the region, the part of Italy where my partner is from. Many people were dying every day, every day. So I was very stressed because of that, most of all because in the UK, people didn't understand what was going to happen. From one side, I was telling everyone, you have to be careful, this is serious, this is not just a flu. And from the other side, I guess there's a little bit sometimes of superiority from people, and I'm not saying it's just British, but in general, because that's the same thing I thought when my mom called me saying, "Oh, have you heard about the virus in Wuhan? It seems like to be a dangerous virus." I was like, "Ah, do not worry, it's in China. It won't affect our lives." And I felt like it was the same when I was telling to my colleagues just to be careful because this was a serious thing and was causing a lot of death in Italy. And when I was saying that in the office or with people I was hanging out with, they were like, "Oh, you know you're being exaggerated. You just need to relax. It's nothing. It's just a flu." I knew it wasn't just a flu because I knew all the information from Italy, and this make you realize in the modern world where like all the information are available to everyone and everyone can access them in the same way, you can see how depending on like your background, depending on your culture, depending on how close you are to a certain reality, you can understand things in a different way. And one of the things that people were saying to me was, you don't have to worry because UK is handling the pandemic very well. We don't have many cases. So people at the beginning, I think everywhere, didn't understand the exponentiality of this pandemic. And the same happened in the UK as well, and didn't understand what the real threat was. And it was like, oh, it's like a flu, just a small amount of people will die, but they didn't understand how dangerous this would have been in the entire healthcare system. I remember like one day at work, even when the government started to suggest not to come to work if you had experienced any flu or fever or this kind of symptoms, in the UK, because they tend not to pay you if you have like sick days during your probation period, for example. I remember there were people that were coming into the office even if they had like some of these symptoms, and I remember like I was going crazy because I was like, what the hell, you need to stay away from me. I was telling people, just please, can you maintain the distance? And people were like really making fun of me because they really were thinking that I was exaggerating, and it was all in my mind. In Italy it was very bad. They already started to close everything. People weren't going to work and all these kind of things already. The situation was getting worse. The office decided we had to just work from home. In this scenario where we knew everything that was going to happen, and not only working from home, but everything that followed, like the shop will close, the lockdown was going to be announced, we decided to play in advance because we knew it. So before they announced that we were about to work from home, and before they announced that they were about to close the shops, we just rearranged in a way our lives, because we were about to go and work from home, me and my partner. And at that time we were living in one bedroom house, so we had our living room where we already had one desk, and then we have our bedroom. So if we had to work from home, the both of us, we didn't have another space where two people could work, but just one. So before they closed everything, we just run to IKEA, trying to buy whatever we needed for set up a new office in the house. And we did it before they closed everything. And we did the same for like stocking up a little bit, some food and some grocery. Obviously, we didn't buy everything we could, but we just tried to be a little bit more smart about that. And then I remember at that time we planned in advance the online slot for grocery. We basically booked one slot for each week for like 2 months, and they were all free, because people didn't know that supermarket were going to be crazy, and people wouldn't want to go to like physical supermarket, and the online slots were about to run out very soon. But we knew, because it was in front of the eyes of the entire world, that that was going to happen, because it had happened in other places. And like, I remember my dad saying, just go to the supermarket, buy some, stock a little bit of food, of the things you need, especially if you have like the fridge empty. Just go there, buy something, buy some hand sanitizers, some hand gel, alcohol, face masks, because it's gonna come and it's gonna arrive there. So just be prepared. And I guess if everyone had done it in a way like this, maybe we would have avoided like the things that happened, like everyone running in the supermarket buying all the toilet paper in the supermarket. Because at the end of the day, we knew this wasn't a food emergency. We knew that we weren't about to run out of food, but it was just not just but it was a health emergency. The third phase that we experienced after that was having a little bit more anxiety in terms of like things that were happening, because we had seen in the past this happening to Italy, but now I think it was around May or June, I can't remember, but it was time where everything that happened in Italy was happening in the UK now. It was for us like we've lived the beginning of the pandemic twice. The first time when it was happening in Italy, and we lived it again when it was happening where we were living, so in the UK. People weren't really following the advice, people weren't wearing masks, people weren't keeping the distance. We didn't trust going outside. We didn't trust, not even for a walk. We were like getting a little bit crazy, a little bit maniac, washing our hands like crazy, and just try not to touch everything. And then we had that feeling where, you feel like you're stuck. So everything is closed. Everyone should stay where they are. You can't go out, but I felt like I was stuck there. I was stuck in the UK, and I don't know when I can go back home. What if something happens on I can't go back? And at that time, I didn't know that was like the feeling that I had to experience for the next 1 year. I didn't know that. We didn't know when everything was going to finish, and there was like the kind of hope that everything was going to finish with the lockdown, and like after the lockdown everything was going to, okay, that's it, let's go back to normal. There was the kind of hope that that could happen, but I think that slowly it changed a little bit. Around July or June, the first occasion that I had to go, I just went home. So as soon as they said, okay, you can go and you don't have to quarantine and blah blah, I just booked my flight. it was a little bit harder to find a flight because I remember they were canceling all the flight all the time. I remember I had booked one with EasyJet and they canceled it. So I remember I had booked in the meanwhile two at the same time. So I had booked another one with EasyJet and I had booked as well one with KLM. But because of the pandemic, if you wanted to book a more reliable company like maybe KLM, because they weren't canceling the flights, you had obviously from the UK, you can go directly to Sicily. So I had to go from the UK to Amsterdam and then from Amsterdam to Sicily. So it was like a little bit of a longer flight with the pandemic and with like the new rules, and you had to auto declare and everything. That if I think about it now, it was much easier than what it is now, but at that time it seemed something very hard. If I think about it now, I'm like, that was easy. I had to go back home, but I was a little bit afraid because in the UK the cases were a bit higher than Italy, so I was afraid to bring the COVID with me in Italy, and I was afraid to maybe pass it to my parents or my grandparents or my friends or family. So even if I didn't have to quarantine officially legally, I remember that when I went back home for I think the first 10 days, I stayed a little bit more confined. I was in the same house with my parents, but we didn't hug, we didn't stay too much close for the first 10 days. It's so weird. So when we first met, like at the airport or in the house, we didn't hug, we didn't kiss, we just stayed away for like 10 days and then we hugged. I think what happened next was like one of the most beautiful things that happened during the pandemic. One of the few beautiful things that the pandemic has brought is the idea that people can work from home, and I think for expat people, this is like gold. For expat people, this could mean people could stay a little bit more closer to the person they love, obviously depending on the job they do. My job allowed me to work from Sicily, so I stayed for 2 months with my family in Sicily, and obviously it was summer as well, so we were able to go to the beach with friends, enjoy the weekends a lot more, and share time with people that we loved basically. And that was the best summer of my entire life. I think one of the reasons why it was because obviously we had been for I think 4 or 5 months away with the idea that we couldn't go back if we wanted to. So when we went back, we were like, good, we are with the people we care about. Also because like in the UK, obviously we don't have family. Even when they said that you could have that you could visit your family and stay with them with your bubble, we basically didn't have a bubble in the UK. We basically were alone, and so having the possibility to go back and work from home for us was like amazing. And we spent the most beautiful summer in years, in decades, in from where we were kids probably. It was, I think it was how it should normally be. Obviously, after this wonderful summer where everything was amazing and we enjoyed staying home, we had to go back because the things were going a little bit more rough both in the UK and in Italy. They were starting to close or announce the quarantine when we had to go back. In September, we went back in the UK. It started our fifth phase. That was like the resist time. It was a phase where we had to like go through the winter, go through another lockdown that in the UK was very intense, and it started in November 2020. Winters in UK are very hard and depressing already, so we had to go through it without having family here, without having much opportunity to see friends and everything. Obviously, we had to resist through the winter and to adapt as well to this new life. We decided to move house, to move to another house that was a little bit bigger, and it was a little bit also a little bit far away from the center. So we just rented a house with a garden, so we had a little bit more space outdoor as well, just for a walk, just a bit of fresh air, a little bit more space. With this kind of solution gave us a little bit of space and air as well to go through winter. And then we had a new addition to our family, so we adopted a cat, and so it was kind of nice to have this little thing here that was making our days a little bit more fun and cuddling and cute. And then I think like the last phase, which is the sixth and the last one, is the one we are now, is the complications phase. At the beginning of the new year, we had some family issues as well. So we had some losses in our family. They weren't related to COVID, but at the end of the day, this is the point of COVID. Like, it affects everyone, even if it's not strictly related to COVID. Because like even in the hospital, people just can't go and visit their families, and just can't stay close to a person that is suffering. I think it's where COVID hit us the most in terms of like restriction, in a moment where we really needed to be closer to our family. So in our cases, we both were able to go back because those things happened in January, February, and then March, and it was where like the situation here was really again really bad. Everything was closed, and it was kind of forbidden actually to go back to our countries. So we could have gone for matters related to people dying or anything, but flights were really impossible to find. There were almost no flights. So the only flights that I could find for Sicily were about 36 hours to go there. And because I had to pass in different countries, I had to follow different restrictions. It was very, very hard. It was very impossible to go back. So we didn't. And I think that's one of the most difficult things and that we had to do so far, being away from home, especially with COVID. Of course, COVID made everything a little bit more harder because you can't be there, and if you lose someone, it doesn't make it real in a way. It's like you're far away and you can't process the fact that this is happening for real. You imagine that when you will go back, those people will be there with you. I think that's one of the worst aspect of being an expat, that with COVID was like 10 times worse. Plus we had our cat. The cat we adopted was hit by a car, so that was he survived, is now recovering, but that was kind of hard as well to process during these such weird times. And plus there are like all these question marks about vaccine, when are we going to get one, and where, when will it be possible to travel again, when restriction will be eased. And they had to be relaxed, like I think now, so in June, but because of the Indian variant, it will probably be postponed as well. So all this complication and question mark, and Brexit as well. With the Green Pass in Europe, we don't know if it will apply to UK as well. So there's Brexit as well, that is making everything a lot more harder than it should be. And it is happening like now this year, where everything is a mess in the world. So it's just a lot of things, complications that I don't know, it feels like it's becoming really heavy now. Again, that feeling of being stuck, especially for UK. I think it would have been different if we were in Europe, because I think it's a bit easier to travel. but UK really requires a lot of things when you have to come back, and when you go away. There it's not easy. And sometimes even at work people say, oh, I don't know, like if we can let you go because the government didn't yet say anything about holidays. And in that moment I'm like, I'm not going on holidays, I just want to go back home. And I think that's the thing for expat. It's like during COVID, going back home, it's not a holiday. I think it never really is a holiday. It's because going home is just, going home and see your family. But especially now with COVID, like for me, it's not like I'm British, I just want some sun, I will go to Spain. For me, it's more like I didn't see my family, I didn't see my parents. Some of my family members are not with us anymore, and I didn't see them in 1 year, and just want to go back and see them. It's not just a holiday, just a way for me would be to be with the people I love. So I think from that point of view, there's a little bit of more work to do in that sense, because I know people are saying, oh, we have to be more inclusive, we want to push diversity, but diversity is also, understanding different situations, and different situations human beings are living, and try to understand them, and help them to achieve what they feel they need in that moment. Going home, it's just something that we should have. And I feel like with the pandemic, people have experienced in their skin what being away from family, friends, loved one means. And I think that could help them to empathize a little bit more with expat. If you think about it, that's what expat have to go through normally. Like they can't see their family, they can't do it so often. Obviously, without COVID, maybe you go home a little bit more often, so you feel it a little bit less. Maybe, even like work policy, they could include something more inclusive for expat people that are like away from home, and they might include something for them to work a little bit more time remotely because their family are far away. Or I don't know, if your family experiences any problems, maybe you have more time just to go there and spend time with there. I think it's really important, and I hope people now realize it a little bit more. And yeah, that was it for today. Let's see what's gonna happen in the future. In the meanwhile, if you like this video, please consider to leave it a like or subscribe to the channel. So in this way you can support in a way what I'm doing here. And other than that, have a lovely day. Bye!